Welcome to Eating Plebian, the site where the recipes are made up and the page views don't matter. Today we are making Super Supper. What the heck is Super Supper? Super Supper is something that my family has made ever since I can remember, and it is just a fusion of meatloaf, mashed potatoes, cheese, and bacon that are all kind of stacked together in one pan and baked up. And it is just a one-pan meal that is really easy to make. You take a few minutes and then be able to chuck it into the oven for just a little while, and it turns out great. Not terrible many ingredients either. And so if this is something that you've got some a hamburger or ground pork in your freezer and a couple of potatoes, you're just about taken care of from there. All right, let's see what we've got. Our opening bench consists of 2 pounds of potatoes. They have been they've been given water to cover. I've got a tablespoon of salt. I'm going to chuck that right on in, and we're going to turn the heat. There we go. On, and we're going to let this go. It's probably going to take 15 to 20 minutes, but I'll be testing these with a fork for doneness. Next, we've got 2 pounds of lean ground beef over here. You'll probably want to use, if you have the option, the leanest that you can get. Simply because when we cook this all up in one pan, we don't want it swimming in rendered fat. So this is 93. I think you can get 93 and 96. Get one of those two. It'll be better for you. This is also a pound of ground pork. Also, get the leanest that you can get. They don't have the percentages in the meat area of your grocer for ground pork, but do what you can. We also have 1 onion. We've got 3 to 5 garlic cloves that have been minced up, 1 cup of breadcrumbs. You can also use the Italian if you don't have plain, perfectly fine. We've got 2 eggs and some Worcestershire sauce and parsley flakes. So we're just going to grab a big bowl and we're going to start combining. Believe it or not, this is not the largest bowl in the house, but it seems like you could probably wash a small child in it. That's all right. I'm going to put the ground pork in there, discard that. We are going to put in the 2 pounds of the 93 lean ground beef. We are going to add 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper, that's probably about it right there. I'm going to put in a tablespoon of parsley flakes, just because I can. The onion goes in. As I said, this is a simple recipe. The garlic. The 1 cup of breadcrumbs go in there. And I'm also going to put in 3 to 4 tablespoons of the Worcestershire sauce. And the 2 eggs. And you thought you were going to get away from me, huh? There we go. All right, so now just before I plunge my hands into this, I'm going to go and turn my oven on because we're simply going to be waiting for these potatoes that are over here to start to boil, and then we can turn those into mashed potatoes. So I'm turning this thing on to the upper. Actually, I'm going to keep doing the lower. at 350 degrees, the lower burner. I have washed my hands. And we are going to get all these combined. One thing you really want to know about putting this together is that you want to make sure it's all more or less homogeneous, but at the same time, you don't want to overwork the ground meat. Try to separate it off as best as you can. If you see some of it is segregated in places, but you don't want to turn this into a paste. Combine it, but don't really mash it up like it's come out of a sausage maker or an extruder or something like that, because that really kind of messes things up a little bit. All right, so this is getting close. You'll note that I really haven't been terribly aggressive with this, and you note that it still falls apart. Try to do that, or keep it like that, if at all possible. And I'm just going to pull apart a couple more of these pieces of pork. And we are pretty much there. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're simply going to go ahead and place this into a 9x13 baking dish. And we are going to smooth it out to take up all the room on the inside. Make sure it gets up into the corners. As much as we want to try to limit the amount of fat that's inside this ground meat, there's still going to be plenty of it in there to be able to remove itself from the dish. So I'm not going to have to really worry about putting in some nonstick spray for this particular venture. So we'll get that there, and it is nearly ready. And so I'm going to put together a few more things to make sure that I have what I need to finish off the potatoes, and that's going to be basically just some milk, some salt, and a potato masher. I've got other things coming as well for the toppings, which will make things a lot more palatable, depending on who you ask, of course. Through our time travel, it's been about 15 minutes later. Our potatoes are now fork tender. I'm going to go ahead and place them back into the pot. I am going to add a teaspoon of salt to these. And I also have a cup and a quarter of whole milk. I may not actually end up using all of this. Sometimes it's hard to tell exactly how much it's going to take in order to get these things nicely textured into those fluffy sort of pillows that we like. I'm going to put about 2/3 of that in here for the moment. And I'm going to use my potato masher, and we are going to go around and turn these into mashed potatoes. So for our 2.5 pounds of potatoes, it looks like about 3/4 cup I used is going to be sufficient. You will note also that if I was just going to be making these mashed potatoes just to serve at dinner, like any other time that you would make these, I would also take that milk, put it in a saucepan, and warm it up so we don't cool our potatoes off. I'm not having to do that this time around for the simple fact that it's going right here on top of our meatloaf base. Let me get this started. Simply, I go around, I place it on top of the potatoes. You can imagine how this is pretty much like frosting a cake, I guess. I am not a baker. I can't bake to save my life. Unless there's a can that says Pillsbury on it, it's probably not going to work out for me. So, I've got the mashed potatoes on top, and I'm just going to smooth these out. There's absolutely no magic here, but this is such a great recipe. There we are. Try to be a little bit more artistic with it, I guess. You'll note that I'm also not going up toward the edges because I still have a few other things to put on it. Number one, cheese, of course. This is my household. It basically runs on cheese. I'm going to use about a cup and a half on here. This is just a Mexican mix of Colby and Monterey Jack. You can use cheddar. You can use Gruyere is great. Gouda. Gouda is also a favorite in this house. And I'm going to get it as close to the margins as I can, really. I don't want to overfill this with cheese because if it does, it'll run off the sides and cause issues. So, all right, there we are. And lastly, I have between 8 and 12 ounces of bacon. And I'm simply going to lay it in on top, or as much of it as I can fit. If you want to make a nice pattern with it, fantastic. Set that down. Don't, don't. I mean, who doesn't like bacon? There. I can put in a couple more pieces there, can't I? My daughter doesn't like bacon at all, but she'll eat it if I take it off. So I'm just going to put this on anyway and beg for forgiveness. Perfect? No. Good? Oh, yeah. There, I'll break the pattern. There, a diagonal. Okay. Wipe my hands off a little bit. This is going to go into a 350-degree oven. I just got this. I've got it set to 140. The reason I have it set to 140 and not something maybe a little bit lower for the beef that's in it is because I also have ground pork. The safe eating temperature is 145 degrees for that. If I pull it at 140, keep the thing covered, and let it stand for 5 or 8 minutes, carryover cooking will take it up to that 145 mark. It's very reliable. And this I'm going to stick in. I touch the bottom, but I'm going to draw back a little bit because I don't want to measure the bottom of the food. I want the center of it. And the most important part is, of course, the center of the meat on the inside. So I'll stick this here, and into the oven we go. And we're waiting for that, basically. I expect it's going to take about an hour. All right, time travel. All right, it looks like we hit our temperature. We are going to go ahead and take it out. Now, because I'm using a new thermometer, I'm actually going to check using another one. Looks good, though. There we are. I'm pretty sure it's probably done. Oh, yeah. We are definitely within temperature. We do have a little bit of grease I can see just right there, but I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue as long as we try to stay in with the lower fat hamburger that we decided to try to use. Clean that off. So that worked out pretty well. Right. So let's get in and dish up. I'm going to cheat a little bit in the presentation phase by using a pair of kitchen scissors to cut some of the bacon because the spatula is certainly not going to cut it on its own. But here we are. I'm going to go around the sides a little bit. Oh, yeah. Beautiful. And now we have our super supper. I've heard of different uh, variants of this with people using tater tots instead of the mashed potatoes. And I imagine that would probably also be a time saver. But, anyways, we're going to sit down and we're going to eat. Thanks once again for joining us here at Eating Plebian. And I hope this helps you out with trying to find one of those midweek dinners. Just having a one pot or a one dish thing can really help things out. Something I've lived with for a long time is this recipe, and hope it will be yours too.